I want to go, I'd send him to Miami. I'd send, there's a lot of places I'd send him. What is your gut feeling on what transpires in this whole Texans, Deshaun Watson, little border skirmish here?
Well, I think really it's on Nick Caserio and Jack Easterby to find a way to fix this. To me, Colin, I don't think you can trade a quarterback of his age, of his talent, of his accomplishment. And, Watson may continue to force the issue, but, I think that once they get a new coach in place, then we really start to see the process of trying to mend fences here. And I just lay this out here for you. Like a good friend of Nick Caserio's is Josh McDaniels. One of Josh McDaniels' first moves in Denver 11 years ago was to trade Jay Cutler. That sort of set the tone for the organization where players really felt like if they kicked and screamed, they could find their way out of there. You saw what happened with Brandon Marshall just a short time after that. So I think Nick and his staff, they're going to be cognizant of those sorts of things. And I'm just not sure that in this sort of situation, A, that you want to get rid of a quarterback of this sort of ability, or B, that you want to set the precedent that if a guy really wants out, that he can force his way out. And so I still think option A here for the Houston Texans is to try and fix this, which was reflected in the way they talked about Deshaun Watson during the introductory press conference.
So usually when a team has a coaching opening, it's a rebuild. Green Bay 2 years ago had an opening, and it's the best opening probably in a decade, where you got Aaron Rodgers, a winning culture, smart people, Devontae Adams, and so that's a great job opening. I look at the Colts quarterback opening like the Packers job opening.
Oh, yeah.
This is a elite GM, elite O-line, star running back, way above average defense. So, I'm a Carson Wentz. I'd call my agent and say, I'll take a pay cut. Reboot. Seriously, that's one of those where I'll tell a pro athlete, dude, take a pay cut, reboot. Your gut feeling on who the Colts, because we know a lot of people would be interested in this job and a lot of agents and quarterbacks. Who do you think they're interested in?
I would not be surprised to see a massive move up the board in the draft in April. And I take you back to where Chris Ballard came from. He was in Kansas City, and if you look at the way that they built the roster in Kansas City around Alex Smith the first 4 years there, it was sort of a constant process of trying to put weapons around the quarterback, build up the lines of scrimmage, and they waited on the quarterback, and Alex Smith gave them the flexibility to do that. And in 2017, they finally saw a guy that they really felt like this can be our guy. Now, Chris Ballard wasn't there for the trade, but he was there for the entire process. He was a big part of evaluating Patrick Mahomes, and he got to see firsthand the benefit of building up a roster first and then plugging a young quarterback in and not being afraid to make a massive move up the board to go and get that young quarterback. And so whether it's Justin Fields or Zach Wilson, it would not surprise me at all, Colin, if we're sitting here at the end of April and we're shaking our heads, wow, how did Chris Ballard get up into the top five? I think the fact that they built the roster up gives them some flexibility where they don't feel like they need 1 million draft picks over the next 2 years.
That's right.
To continue to build the thing. And if they do it this way, guess what? Then they've got a quarterback on a rookie contract for the next few years. And what does that do for you? It allows you cap space to go and take care of Quentin Nelson, to go take care of Darius Leonard, to take care of the multitude of the young players that they've brought up through that system over the last few years. So I actually think the Colts, they could look at Matthew Stafford, they could look at Matt Ryan, they could look at all these options that might be out there, but it wouldn't surprise me at the least if this is the year that Chris Ballard makes his massive move up the board to go and get a quarterback.
By the way, we talked about this yesterday. Kansas City, like the Colts, was drafting in the 20s, moved up to 10. Baltimore was in the second round, moved into the first for Lamar. Yep. Buffalo was in the 20s, moved up twice to number 7 to get Josh Allen. So there's a precedent here. You can be in the 20s if you got the roster set.
I got a little nugget for you, too, here. Chris Ballard was one of the first people to identify Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. He was on him as a freshman. So this was a process that Chris Ballard was very much a part of in Kansas City and knows the benefit of.
So, we talked enough about the Texans and their job opening. Philadelphia has mostly in the last 5 or 6 years, we think of it as, they won a Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. But now you hear about Howie Roseman, the power struggle. Jeffrey Lurie's wants some things. There's a lot of power struggles. So my guess was they're going to hire somebody young, like a Joe Brady, that doesn't want power. Or like an Eric Bieniemy, who wants to build an offense and call plays like he's doing in Kansas City. Those guys work to me. They don't need the power, the personnel stuff. Bieniemy, Brady, they want to do what they want to do, which is call plays and build quarterback confidence. But, I mean, I haven't heard their names for the job. So what do you hear?
I hear they like Josh McDaniels quite a bit. Now, the way the process went for them, they talked to Josh McDaniels late last week. Over the weekend, it really crystallized that Josh McDaniels was the favorite for the job. They did a ton of recon on Josh McDaniels, so he's a very strong candidate there. They doubled back and they added some names to the list. So Nick Sirianni, Kellen Moore, Dennis Allen, all those guys have interviewed this week. And I think really this is going to come down to Josh McDaniels or one of those guys in the new group. And my sense would be at this point, it's probably going to be Josh McDaniels or Nick Sirianni, the offensive coordinator of the Colts. It's going to be interesting to see where this goes. I think a big part of it for Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie too is finding somebody who can help them sort out the quarterback situation. Now, I think Josh McDaniels' experience, not just coaching Tom Brady, but also developing younger guys like Jimmy Garoppolo, like Jacoby Brissett, like all those years ago, Matt Castle, that really appeals to the Eagles, where they see a guy who's really got good experience working with quarterbacks and has learned from having been a head coach before. And Nick Sirianni, I think there's the obvious synergy there. He works for Frank Reich in Philadelphia. He runs the same sort of offense that Carson Wentz ran early in his career and probably could find a way to build Carson Wentz's confidence back up. So I think as much as anything, this hire is going to be about finding the right leader, but also about finding a way to get the quarterback position right again.
By the way, if Brady makes the Super Bowl in Tampa, not only will Belichick's girlfriend be unhappy, she was mad on Instagram. You got to be honest. You live in that area. That would sting a little. Albert, a little bit. If Brady got to a Super Bowl, New England, wouldn't they be come on, that would be tense around there.
There are more Brady loyalists up here than you might believe.
Really?
Colin. Like there are people, yeah. I mean, there are people that are still rooting really hard for the guy. I mean, I think like sort of what we've seen over the last 2-3 months, you start to realize the level of disrepair the Patriots roster was in. The guys that were around Brady last year, why he played the way he did at the end of the season. It wasn't all him. It was in part what was around him. And I almost think like the way this year's played out has added to Tom Brady's legend here, where he's already on that Bobby Orr, Larry Bird, Bill Russell, Ted Williams type of level.
Yeah.
Well, now I think people are starting to say, okay, well, did we root for Ray Bork when he went to the Colorado Avalanche to win a Stanley Cup? Hell yeah, we rooted for Ray Bork.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and root for Tom Brady. So I think there are a lot of people around here that are kind of looking sideways at Bill for letting him go now and are very much rooting for Tom Brady in the playoffs.
Good stuff. Albert Breer, thanks for coming on the show, bud.
Thanks, Colin.
Boy, they're all time. Bill Russell. Can you imagine living in a city? Who are your all-time greats? Yeah, Larry Bird, Bill Russell, Bobby Orr, Tom Brady, Ray Bork. That's pretty good. That may be the Rushmore, as good a Rushmore. L.A. is probably better.
I'm about to say L.A.
is better, but Boston, that's way up there. Oh, Ted Williams, my bad. Best hitter in the history of baseball. Best hitter I ever saw was Rod Carew, but Ted Williams is considered the best hitter of all time. So there you go. So I was thinking, I listened to a lot of sports radio yesterday. I'm not sure if that's good or bad, but I was driving around doing a bunch of stuff yesterday about this whole Phillip Rivers, Eli Manning Hall of Fame stuff. And there's a difference between me having an opinion on this show, which has no impact. It doesn't shape anybody's life. And being a Hall of Fame voter. If I was a Hall of Fame voter, I'll have my thoughts on Phillip and Eli. Next. Best teams start with great talent. Obviously, finding, drafting, scouring the nation for that great talent is the challenge. That's what ZipRecruiter does. Yeah, that's what they do. Help you find the right candidate for your job and your team fast. Healthcare, manufacturing, business services, whatever. Try it now for free. ZipRecruiter for free. ZipRecruiter.com/hurt. If you post a job on ZipRecruiter, it'll get sent out to over 100 of the top job sites just with your click. It's so effective that 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter